again, everyone. Welcome back to Crazy Mom Crafts a Lot. I'm so excited for you to be joining me for today's Lovely You card class. It is certainly a perfect beginner's class. We're going to be focusing on working with the Lovely You Stamp and Punch bundle to make these two fun cards. I love the Stamp Punch bundle combo because they have beautiful sentiments, gorgeous images, and it's a perfect all-around completed set when you add the punch to it. Can't wait to get started. Let's go. Welcome back, crafty friends. I am Chantel with Crazy Mom Crafts a Lot. Today we are going to be making two fun cards from the Lovely You class. We will be using the Lovely You stamp and bundle to create these two fun cards. I love this class because it's perfect for beginners. And I do want to let you know before we get started, we are going to skip a particular step. It's number 3 on your instructions. So we're not going to create this little border here at the moment today because I wanted this to be a full-on beginner class. So this card is a perfect 100% beginner card. And then this, I wanted to take more time for us to get into using the punches on this card. So we're going to skip that step. It's number 3 on the tutorial. But of course, when you receive the video and tutorial, you are more than welcome to follow along and add that part back in if you so desire. So I'm going to show you what we are going to start with. We're going to start with this beginner card. So the dimensions for this beginner card, this is an 8.5 inch wide by 5.5 inch tall card base. When you score it in the middle at 4.25 inches, this will give you a book fold card base. Okay? We're using Daffodil Delight. We're also going to have a piece of 3 3/4 inch by 5 inch Whisper White cardstock. And we're going to have another 3 3/4 inch wide by 3/4 inch high piece of Pool Party cardstock. So these are the 3 pieces we're going to use to get started today. We're also going to be using this stamp, and we'll be stamping this with Pool Party ink. We're going to use this stamp here, this little flower. We're going to stamp with Magenta Madness ink. And we're going to stamp this fun little design with Daffodil Delight ink. I've already gone ahead and mounted my stamps. So I have my ink pad here in Pool Party. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and tap, tap, tap to ink my stamp up. I'm just gently tapping across the stamp pad. I'm not pressing real hard. You don't want to do that because this is a foam ink pad. And if you press too hard, you're going to end up with ink all around the outside edges here of the stamp. And we don't want that. We just want our ink to sit on the stamp design. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp off the edge a bit. Stamping off the camera view too, but stamp off the edge of my paper. And I'm going to stamp in a couple places. I like to try to work with 3, stamping in 3s or 5s, so odd numbers. And the reason for doing this is it's more appealing to the eye when you stamp in random patterns and with odd numbers, because things in the world are not perfectly asymmetrical. So when it's a random pattern and things are in odd numbers, it tends to be more balanced and pleasing to the eye. So that's why we do that. So I'm going to set my Pool Party ink aside. And you see I started with the larger stamp image. The reason for doing this is it's easier to go back whenever we're stamping a pattern. And it's easier to fill in the smaller gaps rather than doing it the opposite way and trying to find space to fill our large stamps into. So we always start with the largest stamp first and work our way down in size. So next we're going to stamp with the fun little flower in our Magenta Madness ink. And I'm going to work to continue to fill these gaps in. I'm stamping on approximately the bottom half of this cardstock piece because we're going to add this layer here towards the top. Okay? So I have my 3 images stamped there. I think I'll stop there for now. And we'll go ahead and move on to our Daffodil Delight. This is an older pad that I'm working with today. I'm still working on building my collection with the newer pads as well. So I'm going to go ahead now and fill in any of these other smaller spaces with this fun image. And I'm kind of rotating, you see, and changing up the design. So I'm pretty happy with that. I feel like it's filled the space nicely. I've got a pop of a couple different colors, and I'm pretty okay with that. I think I may come back in and add just a pop of pink here at the bottom, and maybe one more pop of pink over here. There we go. I feel way better about that. I feel like it's more evenly balanced now. I stamp with my images when I'm done off onto a piece of scratch paper, and then I'm sure to go ahead and clean them up using a stamp chamois. Next, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal Plus, and I'm going to apply adhesive to the back of my card. And I like this adhesive runner because you just pull straight and lift straight up. There's no check mark motion that is required with this particular adhesive. So I feel like it's a good choice if you're a person who may have wrist issues. And then whenever I'm lining up a card front, this is a piece that we're going to layer onto a card base. I personally choose to turn my card bases sideways a lot of the time. It just helps me line things up better. And whenever I'm going to layer a card front onto a card base, my preferred method is to lay the cardstock along the bottom here and check to see if it's even on these 3 sides. Generally, if I even things out on these 3 sides, the entire card front will be even when I adhere it to my card base. Okay, and I must have ink on me somewhere. Oh, I do, because I see it transferring onto my card front. No big deal. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp the miles apart but still in my heart sentiment. I'm going to attach that to my card, my clear block, and then I'm going to use Memento black ink to stamp this image. You could certainly, if you don't have any Memento black ink, you could use any of the other colors we worked with today, or any other color you like. Your card, you get to do whatever you want. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and line this up a little more towards the right. I just personally like how that looks. And I'm going to stamp straight down and lift straight up. And as you can see, my H got cut off a little bit off to the top there. I'm okay with that. I like how nice and even it is otherwise. So I am perfectly okay with that. We'll go ahead and adhere, put some adhesive on the back. And I'm going to adhere this so that it covers up part of my design. Once again, I want to keep that random look going. So by covering up part of the design, it continues to keep a random look about it. So there we have our first card. Super easy, you guys. It's so fun to build with beginner, to make your own designer series paper This is a great beginner technique. This is a very simple card to make. So I'm going to set that one aside and move on to our next card. Our next card, you should have these pieces here. Once again, our card dimensions are 8.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. This is Pool Party cardstock scored at 4¼ inches to get our card base. I'll set that to the side. Then we have a piece of Pool Party cardstock, and this one is 3¼ inches wide by 4.5 inches tall. We also have a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes here. It's 3 inches wide by 3¼ inches tall. We have a piece of Magenta Madness, and this is 3.5 inches wide by 1 inch tall. And then finally, we have our piece of Daffodil Delight that is 3¼ inches wide by 1/2 inch tall. So I'm going to set these 3 pieces aside for the moment, and we're going to work with our large Pool Party cardstock piece. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, using this stamp, we're going to stamp in Pool Party ink on our Pool Party cardstock. So I'm using a D block just for reference, and I'm just going to go ahead and stamp randomly, kind of down and across the cardstock. Let's see, maybe like this. And then I'm going to rotate it and kind of do the same thing. So we're kind of going across this diagonal here. And as you can see, when you stamp the same color ink onto its matching colored cardstock, you're going to get a darker impression. So that's really fun. You could, just to show you guys too, another alternate choice, you could do what's called stamping off. So I've inked up my image. I'm going to stamp one time off onto a scrap cardstock, and then I'm going to stamp again. And if you do it like this, you get a much more muted, lighter image here. So you can choose. You can have it darker, or you can have a more muted, lighter image. So I kind of am liking that lighter image. So I'm going to stamp off again, and I'm going to kind of complete this going down. I'll rotate it to work on the other corner. I like how subtle this is, but it's your card, totally your choice, so you can do it either way. So we'll set that stamp off to the side. The next color we're going to work with is our Magenta Madness. And once again, you can either stamp off to have a much more muted image, or you can stamp with full strength. Okay, so I think I'm going to stamp these off too, because this Magenta Madness is pretty intense, a pretty intense color. So I'm going to stamp off each time. And there we have that piece. Again, it's pretty muted. I'll show you what full strength looks like on the back. This would be the image full strength. So you can see it's pretty different, the look. Okay, so we'll clean that off because we're done with that one now. Next, we'll move on to our Daffodil Delight. And we're going to work with this stamp and our Daffodil Delight. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stamp all across our Daffodil Delight ink. And once again, I'm going to stamp off with this because I do like the more muted look. And that's something too, whenever you're stamping and you want a random pattern, there's another trick you can do, and that's to rotate your stamp a quarter turn each time you work with it. And that will help to give you a random pattern as well, if that's what you're looking for. Okay, so we have all these pieces stamped up. I'm going to set them off to the side and bring back in my Memento black ink pad and my Whisper white cardstock. And for this, we're going to go ahead and stamp the You're My Person sentiment. And for reference, I am working with a C block here. I don't know if you guys, there you go. So this is the C block, and you can see how perfectly it fits. I'm going to stamp more towards the center here because we're going to punch on the ends of this one. And I want to make sure I've left room on either side so that I can center it the way I want it to be centered. Okay, so we are almost done, you guys. These are easy cards. I love these cards because they're fantastic to duplicate. And you can make a lot of them in a short period of time. So with our lovely U punch, we're going to be working with this particular design here. So I'm going to go ahead and slide my 3/4 inch piece straight in. And we are only punching on this left-hand side for this particular card. So I'm going to go ahead, slide it in, make sure it's all the way touching the back. And when I feel like it's there, I'll go ahead and punch. And we have our cute design on the end. So that one's done. We're going to do the same thing, and we're just going to punch on the left-hand side of each one of these. So I punch that one. Well, this is so fun. And then we'll do the next one. And if you're ever unsure, because sometimes, you know, it can be hard to get the exact 1 inch or 3/4 inch, what have you. So sometimes there's a little too much room with the cards. Sometimes there's a little too much cardstock to fit in this space. So if you're ever unsure if things are lined up properly, you can also punch upside down. And the benefit to punching upside down is it allows you to see if the cardstock is centered on the design. So I'm going to go ahead and punch upside down on this piece because there's just a teeniest bit of wiggle room. And there we have it. So we have our 3 punch strips. Now we're going to go ahead and adhere everything. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive. This is my back side, remember, where I was testing out and showing you guys how dark or how light the images are. I'm not putting this on the front of my card. Okay, and once again, this is just my personal preference. I like to turn my cardstock sideways to line it up. That just has worked well for me over the years. You may find that that works for you. You may find a different trick helps you better to line your items up, but that helps me to really center my cards, I feel like. The next piece I'm going to adhere is my Magenta Madness. And I'm going to go ahead and put this one to the side and just down a little bit more than half on my cardstock. The next piece I'm going to go ahead and adhere is the Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere that so it's flush with the edge on this side and so that it butts up here. Oh my gosh, guys, these cards are so awesome. They have such a cute design and they're so simple to make. Like, this is like the best card ever for, you need to hurry up and get some cards put in the mail, something like that. This is great. The last step is to go ahead and add dimensionals. to our sentiment. And that way it separates the sentiment, gives it a little bit of an edge. Just so you know, whenever you do it, add dimensionals to your cards and you're going to mail them, there will be an extra charge to mail cards that have this dimension on them. Currently, it's a 70-cent charge. You can ask at your post office for the butterfly stamp. That is the current non-machinable stamp. But there is that small extra fee added on if you're sending anything that has more dimension to it. And there we have another cute card. Very simple, very easy to do. One of my favorite things about these cards, you guys, is that you can use up these strips. I hate throwing my cardstock away. I love my cardstock. I love using it. So it's really fantastic when there's other ways we can find to work with and use up our scraps. So I keep a little baggie or a little basket, I should say. And anytime I have 1/2-inch pieces of cardstock left over, I throw them all in there. And, you know, whenever I'm inspired to work with my scraps or if I'm in a hurry to make a quicker card, I can just reach in there and grab them, and it's super fast and easy. I use my scraps up. The kids can help punch, you know, and use the punch, or if you're working on Zoom with the grandkids, whatever. Kids love to work with punches. So I really enjoy these particular card designs for that. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope this was a fun, enjoyable card class for you. I hope this was a relaxing card class for you. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me. You can also visit www.crazymomcraftsalot.com and check out any other card tutorials, videos, and designs that are posted there on the website. We'll take you to the YouTube channel as well if you want to check out some other videos. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and happy crafting. See you soon. Bye.